Hey, Allison Verhalen here with AV Writing Services, and today we are talking about your call to action. That is one of the biggest things that I see is missing from people's blog posts, from really all of their content. They feel like they should just put up their content and people should reach out to them and buy their products or services. And in reality, that's not how it works, right? You have to make sure you have the right call to action for the content that you are putting in front of them, but you also need to give them a reason. It's not just, hey, reach out to me. Give them a reason to reach out to you. Why should they want your products or services? So we're going to talk about that here in this video. So first, there's a big difference between e-commerce and B2B or professional services. This video is mostly going to focus on B2B and professional services because that's the one that takes a little more work. You've got a longer buyer journey there. There's a longer decision process. There's usually more of an investment in whatever it is they're buying, and there's usually multiple people making that decision, right? So that takes more work. If you're in a B2C industry, especially if you're selling products that are A, fairly inexpensive, or B, products that we need all the time, like hygiene products, like we all need soap and shampoo, right? So that in that case, it absolutely makes sense to just put up an ad on Facebook asking them to buy right now. Give them a reason. I've seen those videos online where they're, showing how something works, and then you can just click and buy straight from the social media site. That makes sense. And if you want to, you can absolutely write a blog post for example, about how a particular makeup brush works, right? And then at the end of that blog post, lead them to the link to buy the blog post. You can the makeup brush, right? And give them the link, the buy button right there at the end of the blog post. That makes total sense. But if you're in a B2B industry or a professional services industry, such as an attorney or financial services, that's still B2C, but it's similar to B2B when it comes to marketing, and that, again, it takes a little bit longer. People are not necessarily ready to buy right now. They're usually going to start by just looking for information. So that's where your blog post comes in, right? You want to get in front of them as soon as they start doing that research. So for example, if they are looking for how to set up a business, right? How do I incorporate my business? If they're looking for how to, they're probably looking for information on how they can do it themselves. They're not necessarily looking for an attorney who can do it for them, at least not yet. Maybe if they start to look into it and do the research and figure out all the steps that are involved and all the things that can go wrong, if they mess up or if they miss a step, then they might want to reach out to you, and that's where your call to action comes in. But again, it can't be buy from me right now because they're not ready to buy from you right now. They're still looking for information, so give them that information. So first of all, understand your buyer journey, right? If it takes a long time, where are they coming from? How are they finding you? Are they getting to your site through social media, a referral from your newsletter? Are they searching particular keywords to find your website? How are they getting there? You need to know all of this information, and it's going to be different for each piece of content, and this is where it gets tricky because sometimes you'll get people from multiple sources in multiple stages of the buyer journey all going to one blog post, right? So obviously you can't have multiple calls to action on that blog post because that's confusing and no one will take any of those actions if you go about it that way. So it's a little difficult, a little tricky to try and find the perfect call to action for each piece of content, but that is something to keep in mind. How are most people going to be finding this particular piece of content? Is it early on in the buyer journey? Is it later in the buyer journey? Are they searching for you? Do they already know about you and maybe they're just looking for something specific from you? What are they looking for and how are they getting to your website? So keep all that in mind because that's what's really going to guide your call to action, because you need to know where they are currently before you can lead them to the next step of the buyer journey. So first of all, do not link to a contact form, certainly not from your blog. You can from a sales page or a product page, that's fine. But I see it all the time on social media and on blogs, and that's just Again, if you're in a professional services industry or a B2B industry, that's just, they're not ready yet, right? They are just looking for some information. They wanted some tips on how to do something for themselves, or they wanted to know about something, maybe an update in your industry. They wanted to know about something specific. They get that information, they're out. They're not necessarily ready to buy yet. So don't ever send them to a contact form, because they're going to click away, right? That's why the call to action is so important, because if it's the wrong call to action, if you are asking for more than they are currently willing to give, they're just going to leave. They're not going to give you something less than what you asked for. They're going to go, oh no, I'm not ready for that yet. Thanks, bye. And you've lost that contact, right? That warm lead. So, and you can't afford to lose that warm lead. So it's super important to make sure that you have the right call to action for every piece of content in every step of the buyer journey. So instead, you can ask them to become followers. You can ask them to subscribe to your newsletter, put those links up to your social media profiles so that they can follow you on LinkedIn, because that's a much smaller ask. And it's not only is it something they're more likely to give, because again, it's smaller, it's something they're willing to do. But on the other hand, it's also a great opportunity for you to continue putting great content in front of them, right? You can put that great content out on through your newsletter, put it out on social media. If they follow you on social media, then you can follow them back. You can engage with their posts and really create a sense of connection with them, so that when they are ready to buy, or when they know someone who's ready to buy, you will be the first one they think of. They will already know, like, and trust you, and they'll want to work with you. So absolutely keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that you can lead them to related content. If you're in a B2B industry, on average, people are going to look through 13 pieces of content before making a purchasing decision, right? And some of that will be from third-party sources, reviews, testimonials, whatnot. But it's also going to be a fair amount of it. I think on average, 7 to 8 pieces of those content are going to be on your blog. They're going to go straight to your blog to make sure that you really know what you're talking about. So lead them to other pieces on your blog, other articles. If they read something about how to incorporate their business, maybe you want to lead them to another blog post that covers a similar topic. Keep that in mind so you can keep them reading, you can keep them on your website. Also, the longer they stay on your website, not only are they more likely to convert into customers, but Google keeps track of that too. If someone clicks to your website and doesn't come back to Google, Google keeps track of that. And Google actually likes that, believe it or not, because Google says, great, we wanted to help them find what they needed. They found what they needed here. This is awesome. That will improve your rankings for that particular keyword. So absolutely keep that in mind when you're trying to create this engaging content and keep people on your site, and obviously convert them into leads, because that's the ultimate goal of everything that we do, right? So those are some things that you can do. You can also make sure that you give them a reason. I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the video, but it bears repeating again and again and again. Always give them a reason. Why should they buy from you? What is their life going to look like after they buy this particular product or service? What is the benefit that they will see from it? If your call to action is a link to a sales page, which it absolutely can be if it makes sense for that particular piece of content, then even just something from the first sentence of that sales page can be a nice lead-in to encourage them to click that link. If you're asking them to sign up for your newsletter, again, give them a reason beyond just, hey, you're going to get updates from us. They probably know that already, but is there a tutorial that they could sign up for? Is there a free download you're going to give them in exchange for their email address? What is it that, you are willing to give away? Not for free, because an email address is valuable, but for inexpensive, that is also something that is valuable to them, something that will prompt them to actually reach out and take that step and buy from you, or at least give you their email address and hopefully eventually buy from you. So keep that in mind, get creative with it. We see that all the time with the pop-ups and the, sign up now to get such and such, right? We see them all the time because they work. So keep that in mind. Give them a reason to buy, and make it super easy. I mentioned earlier that you never want to have multiple calls to action, because that's just going to confuse people and overwhelm them with options, and they're just going to click away. You want one call to action for every piece of content. What is the one thing you want them to do when they are done reading that piece of content? And then make it super easy. Don't tell them to go here and then over there and blah, 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 right? You want them to click one thing or filling out their email address, entering that into a little bar on your website should be the most work that they ever have to do for a call to action, right? Other than that, it should just be clicking a button. Super easy, not a big time commitment on their part. They're much more likely to take that call to action. And then my final tip is FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Put a time limit on it whenever you can. Now, don't put a phony time limit on it, because I see this all the time online where people, you open up a web page and there's this countdown clock that's counting down to whatever, you have this long to take advantage of their offer, right? But if you go away and come back to that website, yeah, that same clock will pop up again at the same time and just start counting down all over again. It's phony. There is no real time limit on it. They're just creating this illusion. And people see right through that. We know that it's an illusion and that's not going to make you more trustworthy. So don't do that. But if you have, for example, a webinar or a tutorial coming up and it's going to be at a specific time or date, or if you have a promotion that you're running, for example, I am running a promotion now through the end of 2020, right? If you buy one of my customized editorial content calendars, you will also get a free 6-month subscription into my blogging accountability group. That is a limited time. That is for real. That's not fake. I'm not going to redo it starting in January. You have until January 1st, 2021 to take advantage of that offer. So things like that. Again, get creative. What are you doing in your business that has a time limit on it? You want to take advantage of that FOMO feeling, because we hate we hate feeling like we missed out on something. So we will go to a lot to avoid that feeling. So keep that in mind. If you have any other questions, you know where to find me. I'm at avwritingservices.com. You can send me questions directly to info@avwritingservices.com. Thanks so much. Have a great week and happy blogging.